All right. Hello, everyone. This is the little LII party so far. People are just joining in. Okay.
Hey.
So the way that this sort of discussion was going to go is, I mean, obviously, people can ask questions in the comments, and we can sort of take the discussion wherever we like. But yeah, I have a few ideas actually that we could probably discuss, at least typically within, uh, at least maybe within the frame of my own interests, if you would be interested in doing that, or uh, just having like a casual discussion, or I mean, yeah.
A little of both sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty flexible.
Okay. I'm looking at the comments now. Oh, I don't know if I can show this one. Okay. Oh, we have a first question. What do you guys all do? So, I don't know if I could probably lead in with this. So what I do, basically, I'm a undergraduate physics student at going to university, and I don't really have like a job or anything, but I'm just focused primarily on my own studies and university life. And pretty much what I want to do is research in theoretical condensed matter physics, because it's a highly developing field so far, and I think it has a lot of applications in technology and material science. But I'm very interested in the theory part of that. So uh, maybe collaborating or working with scientists or engineers in that field. But I'm still early on in that area, so yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll go next. Right now, I'm a data analyst at a bank, and a lot of my job involves just making reports, or we're programming different pipelines so that the data can go through our financial instruments, through our data warehouse. Then it'll be separated to unstructured and structured data, and then that gets just delivered further to other people who are going to make reports. I guess saying that out loud actually kind of sounded boring, but it's interesting for me because I work with a lot of other NTs, and it's just pretty good. Like, I thought always working at a company would be boring, but no, it's just half of the time you're just making like silly jokes with people and drinking coffee, and that's cool with me. And then you just program or do some analysis on the side. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do professionally right now.
All right, I'm Laura, and I'm a librarian, and that's spelled LIIBRARIAN. I'm not actually working right now because of the coronavirus. The library is closed right now, but when it was open, I do research for people, help them find information on various subjects. I provide technology assistance to people on the computers, help them find books and materials.
Okay, I guess next would be me. So I am undergraduate. I'm currently aiming for a double major in statistics and psychology. As far as work, right now I'm doing food delivery. It makes a decent amount of money to be able to pay everything, all my bills I need to pay. And Yeah, I've always been really interested in like statistics and finding like data and like kind of seeing the correlation in the data and seeing if you can make theories out of it. And that's what really interests me about that field. And I know psychology is very statistics focused. So that kind of combining those two interests.
Okay, so I'm a doctor. I'm a general practitioner, and I've been doing that for 13 years. So I've been a doctor since 2003, so a bit longer. What got me into that is a very complicated story, but yeah.
I'm a musician, in particular a composer. And like I'm part of a team working on a game right now.
Okay. Let's see. I think we have another question here. Here we are. How does SE Polar come out in all you guys?
Terrible at asserting myself, avoiding conflict.
Yeah, I mean, I think we could probably all agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I think more generally, it can also be like a sort of naivete when it comes to like being able to defend your own interests against the interests of others. You kind of having like an idea of people being able to discuss ideas in a civil way, but not really. That doesn't always come about. Like people can assign themselves to a very particular set of ideas or beliefs and try to push their point of view onto another person. And I think that, at least in how I see SE Polar, and maybe also any creative by extension, is sort of like giving people the benefit of the doubt in this way, sort of being more open, but that openness can sort of open yourself up to conflict sometimes. No, not always, but it can happen. That's at least what I think.
Yeah, for me, I see it as so conflict can be very difficult, but it doesn't necessarily mean. I think there is a stereotype out there that SE Polar does not assert themselves, and I think they definitely can. I think it's much more to do with like being tactical about how going about conflict is not really it's definitely one of my weaknesses. Like it's not, I would say, at least the way I feel about it, I feel like I go about it like very roughly. Like I just like somewhat in a TI way. So I try and like lay everything out, and then I try and make sure like let's make sure we get each of these points down to clarify in this conflict. And that's kind of what I rely on when I go into conflict. But it's, if I don't have that, it's not, I don't really have a tool to be able to go about conflict. And from what I've seen of like, for example, like 40 SC types, it's I've noticed that they're a lot more dynamic and tactical and able to switch and maneuver how they go about conflict much better than I could ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anyone want to move on to another question, or is there?
I just wanted to add something about SE Polar. I think it's kind of knowing how much pressure to apply in a situation. So you're either not applying enough pressure or you're applying too much pressure.
Yeah.
You know, it can swing in the other direction too.
Yeah, yeah, I think that can happen with the vulnerable. The lack of awareness can sort of be like you don't know exactly how much pressure you're actually sort of applying. There's sort of a blindness to that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it can work in the other direction too.
And I think also just being very sensitive to people applying pressure on you. I think it works that way too. And
Yeah.
Complete resistance.
yeah.
Okay. I think there is another question here. Here's one from Kat. What do you guys think is the thing that most people misunderstand about this type? Or conversely, what is the most frustrating for you being this type?
One word comes to mind, and it's the word I think the word like robot. I think a lot of people like stereotype LII as being completely emotionless.
Yeah.
That's not true. I can't say that's further from the truth. Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Yeah.
I've had people like call me like a cyborg before, or like Data from Star Trek. So yeah, I think it's the asymmetry between the TI and FE. Just because someone has a strong focus on that does not mean that they don't have like emotions and cannot express themselves. And I want to live in a society where you are free to do whatever you like, just please don't express yourself so much. Like it just sort of people can be authentic and be like who they are, but people can still have like proper manners and treat each other nicely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, express yourself, but don't be overly hyper dramatic about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice
Yeah, Emery, I think you're spot on about that. People think LIIs are robots because I see myself as very emotional and sensitive, and people may not always realize that at first glance. But I mean, it's always there, and it's always a struggle for me. It's.
I think I can actually say one particularity about at least some of the descriptions that I've seen of this type, at least some of the Russian descriptions. And this is something that is partially true, but it's not really true. Sometimes when the LII is sort of described as like a revolutionary in some sense, like if you've seen some of like Stratievskaya's descriptions, I mean, a lot of it, like most of it, will sort of be like spot on, but like there will be other parts of it where like this type, it'll say like, oh, this type is willing to like sacrifice themselves for their ideas, and it's sort of described in a little bit of a utopian way. I mean, it is true to some extent that I think that this type can be indeed quite passionate about their ideas, but nothing to the point of like imposing that onto another person or trying to like lead a movement themselves.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But what about Bernie Sanders? A lot of people think he's and
Well,
LII, and he is trying to lead a movement. I mean,
yeah,
kind of.
that's why I said I think it's partially true for some types. But
Yeah.
I think it has more to do if you've tapped into your suggestive. I think an LII who becomes a statesman or a politician or a public speaker, there will be a greater demand placed on for their FE. So I think that at least in some cases they'll attempt to outsource this from other people, sort of like if they say particular points that the crowd ends up agreeing upon, they can get feedback from that, and they can get an idea that they're doing the right thing. But even at that, there can still be some problems there because basing your points off of an agreement from the crowd can, in some sense, be a compromise of and like what you believe. So,
Well, if you're basing your points off agreement from the crowd, aren't you just afraid of like saying what you want to say? Like, I understand that being afraid, but that's what it is.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So there is it's not exactly clear here. So, yeah, that's at least what my take is. Let me look for another question. Okay. Oh, how about this one? This one from Jack. What do you guys really enjoy? I suppose I could lead in here. One thing that I actually very much enjoy is like writing about like my own ideas or insights that I have in like uh, philosophy or physics or history. I think that in some sense I feel that it's kind of a blessing and a curse in some sense because I feel that I have these selective interests, but not a lot of people are really interested in them, and I am not totally sure if people would really even like take interest in what I have to say. So there is sort of a uncertainty and like knowing uh, how people will react to like what I say or what I have to say about this, or if it goes too deep in an area and I can't adequately communicate exactly what I've written in this simple, basic language. So, but to me, it's something very. I can devote myself very passionately uh, uh, to that. So that's one thing that I particularly enjoy.
For me, I've been playing guitar about 10 years. I really enjoy that. But I can't play for more than maybe 2 hours and then it gets boring. But this feeling of being like lost in the moment and in a song, or it could be a cover song, it could be a jam session with some friends, like just that, I'm not sure really what it is, like a harmony, you're just lost in the moment. I really enjoy that. Also enjoy bouldering and yoga and cooking, like just anything I can do that really gives me a nice benefit, whether it's a sport or learning something new. Obviously, feeding myself. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if that's more SIFE. I'm not sure really where that's happening, like with music, but yeah, that's what I really enjoy doing in my free time.
Okay.
Is it okay if I add to this one?
Of course, yes.
I mean, obviously, I like music. I like painting. I really like the ocean, but I can't go there all the time, of course.
Yeah. I think, at least concerning artistic interests, there was a time where I was like very interested in like uh, painting and that. Uh, but I've noticed that I don't really spend so much time doing that anymore. Uh, I think that, you know, it can be a very like calming or therapeutic activity to be able to uh, express exactly what you're envisioning in your mind, like to put imagination on paper, so to speak. Uh, but I don't know, maybe I could tap into that. At least, I mean, given the current crisis, we have a lot of free time on our hands, so I certainly see why not. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed music a lot. Listening to music, can listen to music for hours. Always been a bit of a daydreamer that way, and I've enjoyed writing music. Played in a number of bands and things like that, and I've always really enjoyed that. Hated live live performance, going on stage, the nightmare, but doing it for other people because they're like, come on, we can do it.
Playing an instrument in particular, like for example, guitar or cello, especially cello, like while the bow's going across the strings, you can feel the vibrations that are creating the sound like through your entire body. And it's almost like you can feel the sound that's going to come out almost before it comes out.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that I really like. I play the cello as well, and I really enjoy that feeling. I totally know what you mean. And I've often also imagined you just sort of enter a little bit like another space, a little bit that way. And I also play bass guitar, and that's a much more there's much more like much stronger feeling in your body, and like when you go on stage the bass, that's really good, the physical sensation of that.
I've actually been meaning to look up for, oh gosh, I think 2 months now. I put it on a to-do list and I forgot about it. Like what the mechanism is behind like how violin, saxophone, and electric guitar all have that property of kind of like emulating the human voice in a sort of timbral way.
Yeah.
But like particularly in like emulating like screams and sobbing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I actually play the saxophone. And I really, I also, I really enjoy the connection to the instrument, like the way that your hands and the instrument just kind of merge and you produce some piece of lovely music. Yeah, I like that. That is, it's like kind of, I guess like kind of spiritual to me in a way. And yeah, it's I think it's kind of funny because I don't think most people would expect that LIIs, a lot of LIIs write music because the majority of people here. I also write music to an extent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I'm the boring person here that doesn't play an instrument. Well,
Yeah.
I took
It's not a
piano
requirement,
lessons for
don't
2
worry.
years. I took piano lessons for 2 years as a child, but then my dad was the one teaching piano, and I don't know, I didn't like my dad telling me what to do and how to do it, and these pieces to practice, and I quit. I never kept up with it. So you know, sometimes I wish wish I had kind of stayed with it, but I think it's common for LIIs to pursue music as a hobby. That is something I've noticed, and I think music is kind of like a system in itself, you know, because you have all the patterns and the patterns in music, and I could see that being compatible with LII.
Yeah. Actually, there is something that I was thinking about, a point that was touched on earlier about actually being able to feel the music within you. I was talking to Andrew about this a while ago. Like, one major indication that of like FE being blocked with SI is that you can actually, your emotions are actually like connected. You can feel the connection to your body, so that there's sort of like this sensation. So if you're feeling good, you actually sort of feel like in a healthier state. And if you feel sad or angry, your body feels uncomfortable. So I think, especially, I think maybe in contrast with EIIs, with LIIs, there's sort of a greater connectivity between the emotions that we experience in like our own physical bodies.
Mhm.
It's kind of unfortunate in that I sometimes can't tell if I'm anxious or having an asthma attack because I feel the same at first.
Okay, I think there was another really good question
Yeah.
here. I don't know if I passed it. Oh, here it is. Try to get through everything. There's a lot of questions being asked. So, the on-screen sextet, what are your tri-types and DCNH subtypes? Okay. I'm pretty sure, I'm not totally certain, but I'm pretty sure I'm like a 5-wing 4, but I'm not totally sure on that. But my tri-type, I do know it's like 1, 4, 5. Not really in that order. Because there are different ways to order this. I'm not too familiar with Enneagram, so I would like to learn more about it someday.
Yeah, I'm a LII 5-wing 6. My tri-type is 531, and I'm a social sexual. And I think my DCNH subtype, I've been in between dominant and normalizing. I'm not exactly sure which of them I am, because I could see myself potentially fitting both. I know Glencoe himself has said that you could have a mixture of subtypes, so that's probably in that range.
Okay, I'm a 6-wing 5, self-pres social for my stacking. I think I'm a 614 tri-type. For my DCNH, I'm not totally sure. I'm guessing I'm a normalizing subtype. I was kind of talking to Ben Vasserlin about it. Could possibly be harmonizing. It's weird because Victor Galenko, he typed me, you're going to laugh when I say this, but he typed me as an EIE with a normalizing subtype. So I'm like, I know that's just out of left field, but that's what he typed me as.
Interesting.
Second choice.
Okay.
I am a 4-wing 5 SPSX 451. And I don't know enough about DCNH to say anything to that, except that the only one of those that no one's tried to say I am is dominant, so, you know.
Okay. I think I know I'm a type 9, but I'm still, after years, like 6 years into Enneagram, I still don't know if I'm 9-wing 1 or 9-wing 8. 953 SPSO. And so, yeah, a lot of different things going on there. My DC and H, I still have no idea. So I've been looking at this for years, either harmonizing, normalizing, maybe. Besides that one article, probably you guys have read it. I haven't seen. Help me decide on that. So I don't really worry too much about socionics and subtypes. It's just I find that the type is more than enough for me.
Yeah, I think I'm a 5-wing 4. I think try type 593. And I'm not sure about DCNH subtype. Not spend enough time looking into that.
Let's see. Okay, looking for another question.
I feel like we're so formal. We're all waiting turns. We're not talking over each other.
Yeah.
We could be a little wilder if we wanted to, and maybe it would feel like that if we were in a cafe right now. But just online, it's, I don't know, it's a little different, isn't it? It feels almost just like a business meeting.
I think it's knowing that you're being watched. It's kind of a bit.
A cafe would be worse for me because there's all that background noise.
That's why you get a corner booth. Nah, there's still noise, but still.
Okay. This one's a question for me, actually.
Oh.
Have you followed Eric Weinstein's portal theory, and what do you think of this idea?
Oh.
I am not too familiar with Eric Weinstein, unfortunately. Maybe if I tried to look more into that, but
Yeah, I'm not too familiar either. Wait, maybe I can look up a layman's version.
Okay. Yeah.
I would really love to come back to this and give a more developed answer later. Hopefully that's, everyone's all right with that, because I don't know. I mean, I know some theories, like there's quantum gravity, there's M theory, and there's the many worlds interpretation of quantum physics, but I don't really know too much about Eric Weinstein. So thank you for the actually suggestion. I have another rabbit hole to go down.
I can ask a question while we're looking for questions. When you found out your LII or INTP, what would you say was one of your biggest epiphanies? So for me, it was just seeing that, knowing what TI is and seeing that, whoa, I'm literally categorizing everything. I'm trying to understand everything. I want to make sense of everything. And I didn't realize how much this is holding me back because you can't understand everything. And I didn't make that connection till I learned that, okay, I'm LII and I'm TI lead, and that's just not only our worldview, but just we kind of just need to do that. And then when we have our axioms in place, when we know what is what, or we think what is what, then we can use a little NE and okay, if you combine these two things, now you have this answer that goes in a completely different direction that people weren't expecting. Or you hear someone's story and they mention two things and you just combine them together, and now everyone's laughing because you created this NE joke out of nowhere. And just to have that label for that was really, it felt good and reassuring to me. And just knowing that, okay, I'm bad at SI and FE, but I still value them, then that helped me really just relax. Okay, yeah, I'm going to make a social blunder, but that's actually normal. It's not something to take so personally. Or, okay, I'll never keep my kitchen perfectly clean, but this is decent enough. I can accept that. Or, yeah, things of that nature.
Okay. Just real quick. I'm sorry, I have to show this one question.
No problem.
Wait, hold on. No, not that one. A disclaimer, I think you've got the wrong idea. Only ILEs do this.
I have a story about this. I was walking in a bar, and there was like half of the bar, like there was brick, and then the bathrooms, and I was watching this person there, and I just walked into this corner. Luckily, I didn't hurt myself, but that was like the first and last time I just walked into something and was completely like caught off guard. Because usually I would notice if something is going to be in my way and could hurt me, but this time I just didn't. I didn't see it. So it can happen. It can definitely happen. Not just ILEs.
I've never. Sorry.
I think it's a bit of that's a bit of a MBTI stereotype. I think Wiz knows this though.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I actually don't walk into polls that much.
I mean,
not as much as the stereotype would say.
Yes.
Yeah, I stub my toe a lot. That I do a lot. I mean,
I've never walked into a pole, but I have accidentally walked into a glass door because I thought it was open once or twice.
Oh,
Me
shit.
too.
Yeah.
Okay. This one's very good. Question for all of us. How have you found your interactions with your duels and supervisees? Let's see. Oh, actually, I am in a relationship with my duel right now. She is
great.
Yeah, she is not handling the coronavirus thing all too well. You know, ESEs, they're very social people, and to me, it's just like another Saturday. Like, I mean, I don't care. I have more free time. But anyway, yeah, pretty much in like how we met, it was pretty much in like high school chemistry is pretty much when we met, and it was almost sort of initially like a tutor sort of like a teaching sort of relationship at first, like me sort of helping out with homework and lessons and that type of thing, and it just sort of like developed from there. Interestingly enough, our first date was actually at a library. Not because I insisted. That was entirely her doing.
If there was one way to describe ESE, it's like it's kind of like we have a lot of things in common, but we're also like opposite in the same way. I like similar but opposite.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me because like a lot of the ways we want to see things are the same, but our abilities are the polar opposite, which of course makes sense. But like in sociologics theory, but like actually experiencing it is just very interesting. Like it feels almost like mathematically like opposite in some ways. Like I'll say one, like how I process things typically in one way, and then there will be like the exact opposite, yet we both value having it kind of united in the same way. So I don't know if that helps illustrate it abstractly, but it's definitely really interesting, and they're always very comfortable to talk to, very enjoyable, and yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, I just kind of have a question kind of off that, is because the ESE and the SEE, they share the same dimensionality of functions. Do you ever find that you mistake an SEE for an ESE and vice versa? Do you ever think like this?
I have once. I like not like in a socionics perspective, but rather like I have a really close friend of several years. He's at SCE,
Oh,
and
same.
yeah,
Like
and
one of my oldest friends.
yeah, I'm really close to him, man. Like so, like usually, like I really vibe with his FE, but sometimes he can get like sometimes when we're doing something, it'll be like really overly pushy, and then we'll get like a little bit of conflict, but we're usually pretty good about it. Um, but yeah, like I've definitely um, it's
Mhm.
yeah, excuse that.
That's pretty relatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, having been
Right.
friends with an SCE for about 10 years, I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I've gotten to be friends with the SCE this last year, and I don't think I could confuse them with the ESE. They can be so just serious sometimes and take things so personal, and I think an ESC would just either get over it or try to make a joke about it, but no, like she stayed on her points, she wouldn't give up, and that's just how she felt, and she wasn't gonna let anything else change how she feels until she went through like the emotion herself. So I'm not sure. I think maybe from if you're not too close to them, you can see that they're handling their sensory world pretty well. Their room is probably really organized, or they dress well and have a nice style. But once you get a little closer, I think you'll see the difference. You can't make all the silly jokes, and you can't just relax. Like they can be really fun, but they don't want to relax, and that's after a while that's what gets on my nerves. 'Cause I'm all about relaxing. I want to work hard, and then that's it for me. I just want to chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm,
Mhm.
me too.
I think that's why I like the job that I have. It's because I don't have to take any work home with me. You know, I work hard when I'm there in the library, and I can go home and just forget about it until the next day. And I used to be a teacher before that, and when I was a teacher, I couldn't do that. I was always having to take work home with me because I was always having to plan lessons, and I was always having to grade. And
Yeah, part of the issues I've had with like trying to do like regular work as opposed to like creative stuff is because like the way I work tends to be like I will work any like 40 hours in 3 days, or like spend an entire week doing something and then I just crash for like a month.
Okay.
So Alex, you don't look for this I would say this harmony, this balance, or when you get stuck on something, you're like, okay, I want to keep doing it. I want to stay on it.
No, it's
You
like
don't want to stop or
if I have like a project or something that I'm working on, it's like it's the only thing I can focus on.
okay.
Okay. I think we have two pretty good questions here. Okay. Serious question. What is something that you all struggled with and are now trying or have overcome? Uh, now, for me, technically speaking, the one particular area that I have been evaluating for the past uh, couple of years has been like my own religious faith. Uh, Previously, I was more of like a Christian deist, and I had the conception that, you know, uh, things were predestined to be, and you know, there's like heaven and hell and all of this, but it took me a while to because I had something of like a complete epiphany, and it came from reading the philosopher Hegel, in that um, what exactly died on the cross was not uh, like uh, it was not like Jesus himself. What died on the cross was the authoritative idea of a God, and that the idea of pretty much like a to me, the ultimate meaning for like humanity is the collective spirit that we all possess within us. So in some sense, I feel that Hegel's idea really captured this, and it's a really beautiful thing that as time progresses, we suddenly have this idea that meaning is not trusted in this abstract authority that we must submit ourselves to, but lies pretty much in seeing everyone as equals and cooperating together. And I think that is pretty much, I think, one of the struggles that I've overcome that I'm the most proud of, I think. So I don't know. I went very abstract in this way, but maybe you have more concrete struggles.
Yeah, I think just learning to be sociable. Like, I'm a pretty reclusive person, so much as I don't like have a very active social life. But when interacting with people, I've learned to be more kind of expressive and kind of make small talk and be cheerful and I think I obviously had to learn that as part of my job. And my first few years of training, I was changing where I was working a lot as well. So I was having to adapt a lot, and that's really helped me. Sorry, my daughter's in the background. All the apples I've eaten, this is a problem. Do you want to say hello? Everybody can see you.
Hi.
Hello. Hello.
She's so shy.
With becoming more socially expressive and just proactive, and like I used to be extremely shy, and now I have no problem engaging with people I don't know on a sort of more kind of FE basis. It's that was a big thing that I had to learn and manage to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for me it's just like in the workplace, because it's kind of like when I'm at work, I'm kind of like very task focused, like I just want to go there and do my thing, get the job done, and my success at work, kind of really depends on my relationships with other people, and it's kind of like when I'm serving customers, I just want to, okay, here's the answer to your problem, and you kind of have to be able to establish like a good relationship with them, and kind of that side of it, and I'm kind of looking at my job more as a problem that's supposed to be solved, and I'm trying to think what else, but I think my challenge has just been, trying to deal with difficult or challenging customers that come into work, because people that don't always want to cooperate with the rules of the library, and then people that are just like really rude to you, and then not trying to overreact to that, and you try to be kind and polite even though they're rude to you, and that's always kind of hard, and then on my performance evaluation, the manager said that you're too hesitant and you're not, something about you're too hesitant sometimes and you're not confident enough. And then I just said, well, I don't want to be wrong. I don't want to tell people the wrong thing. It's better to be a bit hesitant than I think to mislead you. And I thought that was kind of an unfair comment. So I think that's kind of a struggle too, is like being confident when you're not really sure. And I'm never wanting to mislead people because I always want things to be accurate and correct.
Yeah.
Do any of you relate to that?
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm reminded of a quote by Seneca the Younger, that it basically, the translation is, it's like, if one does not know which port one is sailing, then no wind is favorable. You have to have a plan in mind, and you have to have a direction. You cannot just go through with the immediate opportunity that you are presented with. My advice to people, and this would even go for like people who are SE leads or have trouble with NI, don't just act, just keep thinking, think deeply about where the situation is going. Like have a plan in mind. Is it, or at the very least to have a sense of direction, something that constitutes a map of sorts.
If I may, about the what if I say something wrong? That's something that I, especially in school, really struggled with. Like, when the teachers are like, "Oh, raise your hand." Like, what if I'm wrong? I don't want to. That's something that I really care about. And I think a point of growth there that I've learned personally is that it's okay to be wrong. And it's. I've learned not to be as scared of that anymore by just going with what I know and doing the best I can. That's all you can really do. And I used to be very like socially anxious because of this. And I've just kind of learned to just like embrace the uncertainty to an extent, because it's okay. If you're wrong, you get better. And I think that's a point of growth that every LI can take, is that letting yourself out there and messing up is perfectly fine. You're not going to get everything right in the first place, and you're putting ridiculously high standards on yourself to do that.
Yeah, it's not always about being right. What's far more important is learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I would.
Yeah.
In the end, yeah. It's all that matters.
And contributing too. I think we stay a little bit on the sidelines too much because we're waiting for the right answer or the right opportunity. And no, you can say anything you want at any time. Doesn't matter how dumb it is. And that, I completely agree with what you guys said earlier. That held me back so much because I just didn't want to say anything wrong. Or you have maybe, I don't know if it's intuition or something, like you have you think something happens and you like, this must be the answer. But you wait, you hold yourself back. It's like, no, I need to double check this, because if this is wrong, I'm going to look stupid because I have nothing to back up what I just thought about, or what idea just came into fruition. And
it's so true.
Yeah.
I remember as a teenager being really, really shy at school, and often the teacher would ask a question and I would know the answer, but I never felt confident to say it because I thought maybe it's not right.
Oh, I would correct the teacher if I thought the teacher was wrong.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I didn't
really care. I would whisper the answer. I would just say it really quietly. And then the person next to me would say it out loud, and it kept happening over and over again. And eventually she said, why don't you ever say? Like, you always seem to know the answer, but you don't say it. And I'm like, I know, but I'm always thinking, but the teacher could have also meant this, or it could have also meant that. And I'm not 100% sure. And I could, it's terrible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Did you ever like argue your grade with a teacher? Like if you got a grade on a paper and you thought you should have gotten a better grade or shouldn't have been marked wrong. Did you ever?
I've tried that, and then they'll give me like an argument, like, okay, fair enough. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I guess something that I struggled with the most was like whether my like solitary life is valuable enough for like so many like living things, like down to plants and bacteria, to like die for me to continue existing, but also like the value of my life or those of, I don't know, anything and everything else. When like, if you really think about it, like if you imagine yourself like all the way at the edge of the galaxy or at the edge of the universe, like this is also small.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, do any of you struggle with the existential anxiety, kind of like you're so small and meaningless in the universe, and life may not have any meaning at all, and when we die, we just turn to dust. Is any of that kind of a struggle for you?
Personally, I'm an absurdist. I don't think there is any inherent meaning. I think we make our own, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay. I'm trying to be okay with that. It's like a part of me cannot be okay with that. It's like, it's like, why be here otherwise? It's like,
yeah, like I've had to.
There is a much more complex understanding that lies here. I claim that there is a difference between meaning for the individual versus meaning for humanity. And I think I may have said this before at some point. The meaning for the individual is ultimately freedom, to have the freedom to pursue what is meaningful to us. And I think the openness or apparent openness for freedom is something that is absolutely necessary when it comes to human development. I do not, like, time and time again, if you look at the broad scope of history and people, at least concerning human nature, someone being shaped by the Neoplatonic idea of the divine right of kings, and people entrusting in their leader because their leader has a connection to God or has God blood or something like this. For me, it's sort of that openness for space can actually create the environment by which meaning can come about. But collective or meaning, or for the meaning for humanity, is something a bit more abstract. I definitely think that it's the realization that we are not just atomized individuals, but that we are indeed part of something greater in terms of a historical development. And even whether or not you believe the universe has a creator, there is still a higher order which sustains our apparent freedom, which is the fundamental laws of the universe. So to me, that is something very deeply elegant and beautiful. And I think in realizing this, I'm actually very glad to be alive, So, but that's just my perspective.
Yeah, I definitely see that. When I was younger, I used to think a lot about spiritual means of the meaning of the universe. I always thought there was this idea entertained for like about a year when I was younger. It was like, what if like everything's like a simulation, including me, and we're all just computer AI programs? And then I came to the realization that it's like it doesn't really. Well, I wouldn't be able to tell probably. So and it's not Matrix because they're programs. So when you turn off the computer, the programs stop existing. And yeah, it's I always enjoy like contemplating like the existential nature of like who we are and where we are. And yeah, I personally, yeah, my conclusion at least is that like the meaning of our existence is others, society, people as a whole, and that's what gives us the happiness and meaning, at least for me, and what I've seen from other people. But I can't say that's true for everyone, of course, but yeah.
I've thought a lot about the universe as a simulation thing, but that's largely because I was really obsessed with Star Ocean 3 in my teens, and that was a major theme.
Yeah. Hold on one moment.
Are you typing something?
Oh,
Yeah.
dumb question. Okay. Let's see. Oh, actually, this is interesting, and it comes off to another discussion.
Are you completely sure that when you turn the computer off that the program stops running? Or if the computer's
I'm not completely sure because I have Spotify set to not start up when I power on my computer, but sometimes it does it anyway, so I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is actually a very interesting idea because
Can you ever be totally sure of anything? It's like it's like what you want to be sure, but then you can never totally be sure.
Okay, so I think the very problem of simulated universes can also, like, if you boil down the idea of like if it's possible to like upload your consciousness to like a supercomputer and to be able to live on through that way. The idea here is, how would you be able to know in creating that simulated world that we ourselves are not the simulation? So you kind of get into this infinite regression of imagined universes. So there are, in terms of that science fiction, at least idea, there are a lot of paradoxes that can come about.
Yeah.
So also, I think one of a really good old movie that I think it at least covers not the idea of simulated worlds, but of like infinite regression, at least in concerning like time travel. There is a really good movie, The Time Traveler, 1964. It's at least one of my favorite movies. I actually really like the old school science fiction sort of movies.
Is it based on H.G. Wells' story?
Yeah, actually it is.
I haven't seen the movie, but I think I read the book multiple times as a kid.
Yeah.
So maybe I did see the movie. I'm not sure.
To answer what someone said in the chat, I believe it was spacey. I probably am any subtype if you're going by the inert context subtypes.
Let's see.
There's a question. I'm just scrolling up the chat. There's a question by Wiz Agar. What is something that particularly annoys you by a certain type?
Okay, let me see if I can find that and pull that up. Is there a time?
Timestamp 1:02 p.m.
102. Okay, thank you.
Say, I'm gonna go now. I think someone else is gonna come in.
Okay. All right.
All right, Anna.
Bye.
Nice meeting you.
Bye. Nice talking to you.
I think
The
we
question,
can go
Laura,
ahead.
was what annoys us? By
Like
others?
What is
type?
something that
Or-
particularly annoys you by a certain type?
Okay, hold on. Let me put the question up first.
Okay.
And I think someone is joining us now.
Yes, it's our Ben.
Yeah.
Hi.
Oh,
Welcome, Ben.
hello. And I'm the only one without glasses now.
Uh-oh. You gotta get yourself a pair.
Oh. Oh.
I'd like to start with this one because one of my girlfriend's roommates is an ESI, and she can get on my nerves because it's weird. Because I know SCEs, they can be crazy, but it's fun. But at ESI, something about how they judge and how they just don't let go. They just keep at it, needling and needling. Like, I don't like this behavior, or I don't like what you just said, and they just won't let it go. Or they'll tell you something from 6 months ago, and I'm just like, oh my God, would you just get the hell away from me? Like, this type of relentlessness about something that, okay, maybe it is offensive, maybe it did hurt someone's feelings, but it's just normal life of human interactions. Really extreme, illegal, or shameful, immoral. Like, okay, it's just someone being a human. Like, get over it. That's my experience with ESI sometimes. But I think that's what hurt me. Not hurt me, but like rubbed me the worst.
Yeah, I think so ESI is so usually I have the ability to have like somewhat blunt critiques of people. And I think ESIs and I do resonate in that way. But we differ in like I think it's very important to like fully like I want to bend my mind's paradigm to understand how other people think. Because I think that's important to understand their motivations in order to like be able to see why they're doing the thing that they're doing. And I don't see that as much with the ESIs I've experienced with. And they're not as willing to bend their paradigm because they're just like, oh, well, this person did something wrong. And I'm like, well, why did they do that? It's like, and that's a point of disagreement that I have with them a lot. I dated an ESI for like 2 months, and like basically every conflict we ever had was over that.
Okay. Oh, actually, I think
Is
Gab-
anyone else having connection issues right now?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, I just had it, and I thought
I'm fine over
working?
here.
I'm fine.
Well, sometimes what I've noticed with people, like, I guess non-alpha types is like they'll just say something that they think needs to be said, and they're not always aware of the emotional impact it's going to have on other people. Kind of like they'll say, well, I'm just expressing my opinion. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you are entitled to your own opinion, but you got to think about how you're saying it is impacting other people. And I think sometimes they don't always think about that, and they're not always as considerate. So I think that's kind of something that kind of bothers me.
I think I missed the first part of what you said. What person or type are you talking about, Laura?
Well, just
Or are you talking about SE, FI? I'm not. I missed, I guess, something.
Not any one type in particular. I guess maybe people that are not alphas, although I mean, I even know some alphas are like that too, I guess. But they'll just say something, and they'll be like, "Well, that's just my opinion," and they're not being considerate of how it's coming across. You know, that other people are going to have different opinions, and they might be offending other people, and
yeah,
kind of like, well, I have the freedom of speech, so I can say anything I want to, and it's kind of like people are abusing that privilege. It's like, yeah, you do have the freedom to express your opinions, but you got to express it in a civil way, and not like my view is the one right view, and or I'm going to say what I want to say, and I don't care if it hurts you or not. You know,
freedom of speech really only means that the government can't censor. Anyone else can censor.
Hi, hello there.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
This is.
What's your name?
Gabby, I think.
Gabby.
Hi.
Yeah.
Gabby.
Hi.
Hello.
Let's see. Okay. I think there's another question here.
Still the only one without glasses.
It's funny because you think the librarian would have the glasses.
I know.
Yeah, when I was a kid,
I am wearing a cardigan though.
Oh, well, hey, you're part of it.
When I was a kid, I had like 20/15 vision, but now I have two pairs of glasses, one for distance, one for reading.
I'm completely blind. I'm like -7. I'm all messed up. If I lose my glasses, I wouldn't know what to do. That's why I need a double pair. I need to have one pair in my backpack just in case, one at home, and then one at work just in case, shit happens.
I mean, I can see without mine, just it really gives me a headache. So.
I did that surgery, but it didn't correct my vision completely, so I still use glasses. But I can go out and drive without glasses, but I have headaches because I need to force too much my vision, so yeah.
Okay.
I guess, I mean, this is going off on another tangent here, but like, I think sometimes I can get annoyed by people that don't have very good foresight and can't see ahead. And I mean, I don't have valued NI, I have demonstrative NI, but I'm still kind of always thinking in my mind, okay, how is what I'm going to do going to impact my life farther down the road? And then there's these people that just, I don't know, they go out and party, they spend all their money, they go broke, they way in debt, they just marry on impulse, and then they're in a terrible relationship, and it's like, I don't know, it's like people don't see consequences of things. It's like they want like the immediate pleasure in the moment, and they're not seeing how this is going to impact their lives farther down the road. I don't know. Do any of you ever notice that?
Yeah, I definitely noticed that. Have you ever been, Laura, have you ever been so excited that you were at a buffet and you just couldn't stop eating? Like, I don't know what it is, whatever that version for you is, where you just kept going, even though you didn't think about what were the consequences, like being, I guess, lost in the moment. I feel like that's what people with strong SE are doing. They want to enjoy that now, and sometimes it is okay to enjoy that now. And
well,
I think they just take it overboard.
I think it's okay to enjoy, but it's like do it in moderation. I guess I'm always kind of afraid of losing control. You know, it's like
I get that. Yeah.
because I mean, I enjoy, you know, sensory pleasures, and I do have a little bit of hedonistic side, but I mean, it's always like it's always think about what's this gonna bring me later. It's why like I don't drink alcohol, and maybe people think I'm a party poop, but I'm afraid of getting drunk. I'm afraid of losing control. You know, I'm afraid I'm gonna do something stupid that I regret later. And
I relate to that.
Or not just.
I mean, I don't relate to that directly because I never really eat that much usually, but I think it comes out more in terms of like randomly trying things like infusing flowers into teas or whatever, or like one time I was at a store and I found that they had fleur de sel and in a format where you could just get the amount you wanted to. I didn't have to pay a whole lot for it, so I got some and tried it, and it really is like the best salt I've ever tasted or like put on anything.
Well, I can relate to this idea I think in my approach to SI, what's pretty much me there is I have actually been very interested in Buddhist philosophy and pretty much on applying those practices in being able to reach equanimity or peace of mind. So there are specific meditative positions where you can reach a particular. There can be like different states of mind and can bring about a certain kind of insight, like to where you're not thinking about your physical body. You're not thinking about all of these needs. You just sort of feel one with the environment, so to speak. So that I think in some sense to where there is a lot of I'm not saying that you should immediately tune out all of your sensory perceptions or sensory needs. Like, please pay attention to them. But if there's so much noise or distractions, then what has helped me is to sort of have a have a way of being able to tune that all out and to have like inner composure.
Yeah, I think there is, to a degree, at least for me. I've I've always paid attention a lot to the consequences of what other people or myself have done, and that's a bit of me, a big source of my anxiety. Anxiety is a big thing for me as well, and I think it's a matter of it is a lot of almost every decision we make to an extent is calculated risk, and I think for what helped me to get over that is, I mean, and it still exists, don't get me wrong, but it's helped me make it more reasonable is accepting that there's a level of calculated risk or faith that things will go all right. And like, for example, like I drive in a car every day for food delivery. I could get in a car accident and I could die. Like, it's true. And yeah, it's like I can't do anything about that, but I accept that it's a low enough chance and I have partial control over it that I'm okay with it. I'm not particularly anxious unless a car almost hits me, then I'll get anxious. But like generally, I'm not particularly anxious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like yeah, so it's like so I think a level of faith is important. Yeah, I also want to talk about if anyone doesn't have anything else to say, I want to talk about someone was saying something about Thomas said something about like I see the consequence of everything, yet I'm too indifferent to help the others with it as an LII. And at least for me, I actually well, for people I'm close to, I often am the person that points out the consequences. I care about people around me having a good life and not like hindering the health of their life. So if I see something important that I think could potentially be wrong, I will point it out. At least for me. There's probably a few variables in that. Like maybe it has to do with contacting or distancing DCNH, for instance. But yeah.
Let's see.
I related a lot to what you said, Emery. I do see a lot of the times what the consequence of someone's actions will be. And my dad is LSC and my sister is LSC, and I'll see them doing something because they're just bulldozers, how they attack every problem. And I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? And I remember I was like a child, and I guess my dad was already really stressed about what he was doing. And he looked at me and said, how the hell can you know that? And then it happened exactly how I thought it was. I wish I had the exact example of what happened, but I just don't remember because
it happens a lot. Like I know what you're talking about. Like I've done that, and people are like, "How the heck could you realize?" I'm just like, I don't know. I just see it. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, yeah. It's a little bit like, I don't know if you ever played a golfing video game, but before you hit the ball, there's like a line and like dot dot dot, and so
it's like
you can see where everything is flowing. And now this is, I think maybe an NI valuer would be like, okay, now it's time for action. But I'm just always like sitting back like, okay, so this is how it'll gonna happen. Maybe I can do something or not.
Yeah. I actually have a question for you all. Was there ever a period of time where you were interested in like a particular sport or physical activity, or because I know this kind of ties into the SI question, because I know it's a little bit strange to suggest, but there was actually a period of time when I was younger where I played a bit of basketball. So and you know, sometimes I tell people about this and they are completely surprised by the fact that I have anything to do with physical activity at all. So I was just curious to know what your experience is with that.
I really liked tennis when I was a kid, and I'd like play it and jam when I was able to. I had my own tennis racket. I'd take summer lessons and stuff, and I think part of why I liked it was because like even though I couldn't move very fast, as long as I could get to the ball, I knew exactly how to hit it to get the exact trajectory I wanted.
Yeah, that
so
is something.
Yeah,
that is something I terribly struggle with. It is that, you know, perfect timing and aiming it just right. I admire people that can do that. You know, like I've dabbled in a lot of. Well, when I was young, you know, I dabbled in, you know, different sports, and you know, some of it was just, you know, physical education, and in school we were required to take physical education, but I never found anything that I excelled at. I was mediocre at everything I tried. You know, you think with all the sports out there that there would be one that I would be decent at, and it never happened. But I guess I'm good at walking and hiking. I have a pretty good endurance, and I do try to work out on a regular basis. And I can see my numbers going up, which is kind of nice, because I never got that positive feedback when I played sports. It was always like everybody else is like way better than me, and I hated being on the bottom. I hated feeling inadequate. I hated feeling like I'm letting my team down because I'm not, you know, performing as well as they do. I didn't want to, you know, be blamed for it. So
Yeah, I think that was part of why I like tennis, because it wasn't a team sport.
I can say that I have phases where I'm just obsessed with one sport. I was skateboarding, I think, for like 7 years, and I just love doing that. When you are practicing a trick 100 times and failing 100 times, and you land it that once, it gives you such a rush of euphoria.
yeah.
And then what did I do after skateboarding? I messed up my knee, and that was tragic. So I ended my skateboarding career, not really career, but just hobby. And I got more into fitness and sports, but that was too boring for me. I enjoyed some cardio and lifting weights, but in the end, it's just boring. So right now, I'm doing bouldering and yoga, and I really like the kinestheticness of it. And I really like sports that I don't want to be on a serious team. Like, I would never join a team or a club, but the aspect of playing soccer or football or basketball, you're in a team, you rely on each other, there's this energy, like, I really enjoy that. But if I'm just doing it for myself, I want a sport that I can do or not do with people. And that's what I have with bouldering or yoga. It doesn't matter if it's just me or there's 10 other people there. It makes no difference whatsoever. And I just don't, what I don't want is to rely on other people to have fun. Like, that would bum me out.
Yeah. So, if there were any other, there's a little bit of a backlog on the questions here.
It's only a little.
Yeah, well, well, since Gabby joined, there is a question here from.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I work as a programmer. I just started working as a programmer now. I've switched career in the past like 2 years maybe. I used to work as illustrator and graphic designer, but I decided to change because of for many reasons, and I'm working as a developer now, programming, basically.
And what framework and what languages and what industry?
So I'm working right now using JavaScript. I work as a front-end developer, and I use like React Native, and it's for a company who helps that helps companies to establish themselves. So we are building an app to like to keep track of the companies that comes to the state where I live. Basically, yeah, it's kind of boring, but programming is something nice to learn because you need to learn something new every day. You need to keep yourself updated. There is always new technologies. So if you're someone that likes to keep learning new stuff, that's a kind of work you enjoy. So that's one of the reasons I came to work in this field also.
I'm also in IT, and I would say learning it. I enjoy the process of learning anything till I can do something with it. And when you get to the part of actually doing, that's when it gets actually kind of annoying, because in a real world, programming is, I would say, all TE. It's about doing something in a deadline that can fix this problem. There's no take your time, figure this out. What's the best answer? I don't care if you take 6 months. That's not the real world, unfortunately. I have really mixed feelings on job satisfaction. But luckily, the culture at my company and the people there are like the best factors. So that's what actually keeps me going. It's more the environment as opposed to the work that I'm doing.
Yeah, I think the work conditions are kind of everything for me anyway. It's almost more important than the actual work I do itself.
So more questions for Gabby. Like, do you know your Enneagram?
I think it's 5. I've considered also 9 as a second option, but I think 5 makes more sense. And the 3 type would be 594, I think, and SP. Yeah.
Lots of 5s here.
Just okay, a quick thing. If you to the chat, if you had any questions before and I didn't see them, could you, in having to look back, it would be a bit more convenient if those questions were reposted. I think so.
There was one guy that said, Retro Gamer 71, what's Clayton's LFVE self-label? And that's just another system called, in English, attitudinal psych, and the direct Russian translation would be psych yoga, and there's just another 4-letter system with 24 types. In the Eastern, I guess, socionics groups, they consider this is like their Enneagram, where people like to use both types to like not intertwine, but like to not judge people, but to type people, I guess. And so if you're type duels in both system, then you're the double duel, and this is like the best you could be. But if you're interested, just type on Facebook attitudinal psych, and it's a pretty fun system. It doesn't really have to do with strengths, it has to do with preferences. So there could be a thinking type like us that leads with emotion in this system, and all that means is that you only think you're obsessed with your own emotions as opposed to other people. It doesn't talk about the strength. So that's all I'm going to say on that. And if you're more interested, then go check it out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure my type in attitudinal psyche is like LVEF, and that ordering is like logic, will, emotion, physics, and the F for physics, that has to do with the Russian translation, where it's sort of the PF sound, so it's sort of like physica, so that's why it's sort of like the F, and will as V, that's sort of like volition. But there's a whole literature on this. They look into it and so on. But I think we have another question. Oh, here's one. All right, question from Kat. What is the worst advice someone has ever given you, and what is the best advice someone has ever given you? It's quite good. I'd have to think about that.
Almost every advice anyone ever gives me is bad.
Yeah.
The best advice I have been given, I have specifically asked for, and that was from Kat. I'm not going to say what it is on stream.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I remember the worst advice, honestly, because I don't know if anyone's ever read Dario Nardi's book. I think I am probably INTP in its system, and basically he said that INTPs automatically filter out things that are irrelevant to them. So I've gotten a lot of bad advice, and I filter it out. I don't know. I really don't know. I probably can't answer that. But and the best advice, it's probably a bit too personal to get on live stream, but yeah.
I see.
I'm unfortunately a little stumped by this question. Like, I don't have any memories popping up.
Yeah.
Is that polar SE? We just ignore advice.
Yeah.
I think one of the best pieces of advice that somebody gave me was, don't be afraid to make guesses, because I don't like to just guess and be wrong or tell people wrong, but sometimes you have to be able to guess, and I don't know for worst advice.
I remember.
I mean, there's been advice. I'm sure there's been advice I've received that hasn't been helpful to me personally, but I can't think of one moment that stands out as being the worst.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
only memory that came to me was an old boss of mine said, your career should be a marathon and not a sprint. And it seemed like kind of insignificant, but when I think about now, like, I don't know if you guys know what a product owner is, but when you're using an agile way of developing a program, and so every 2 weeks we sort of reassess what have we been up to. Is this the best way to go? Let's prioritize. The product owner is a person responsible for talking to all the stakeholders to make sure everything is right and in order. And I was offered this position and I turned it down because I thought I didn't feel like talking with all these people. And I'm so glad I did that, because that would be nonstop meetings all day. And then you still didn't get any work done. You're just in meetings. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'd like meetings sometimes, but to have meetings all day, like I can see that advice sort of resonating later and really applying to me. Just focus on what you can actually enjoy when you're at your place of business, as opposed to keep climbing this ladder for what? You're gonna make more money to be kind of more miserable.
Mhm. I think one bad advice I've received, and people receive in general, maybe it's not that it's a bad advice, but it's more like incomplete. It's like follow your dreams. I don't think that's really a good advice unless you think about it, put in some doses of realism to it, you know. So, okay, I'm going to follow my dreams, but I need to plan through, I need to create some sort of strategy. I can just, okay, I'm going to be a rock star or an astronaut or whatever. And yeah, I don't think just like looking for being moved by something like follow your dreams is responsible or interesting or is going to get people really somewhere. So I think it's kind of weak advice, actually.
Yeah. I'd have to say, like, best advice. It kind of relates a bit to the career field that I want to go into, and it's sort of this idea that um, if you are afraid to put yourself out there and present your ideas to other people, then they're not going to even know like what you're all about. You know, they can just make assumptions based on first impressions. So, best advice is, you know, like, don't be afraid to like establish connections. You know, like the professors are like your friends. Uh, like in terms of like your colleagues, you know, these are going to be some of the people that you might have to work with someday on some future project. So establishing that early connection or establishing that connection early on is very important. But also sort of this idea of publish or perish. You know, the people who do become known in academia have to keep like publishing their findings, or else there'll still be like a footnote at the bottom of some article. And so you got to be at least a bit more socially conscious in putting yourself out there, because it can really make all the difference in the world and open up new opportunities as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that whole publish or perish thing kind of scares me. It's kind of like, you know, I want to publish when I want to publish. You know, I don't want to just churn out articles just to meet some quota.
Yeah.
And then that formal writing with like all these rules and stuff, you know, oh, you gotta put the footnote here, you gotta format it just like this, or or they're not going to accept it. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, when it should be about the idea itself, it's
the one thing that does kind of
and these journals just kind of brutally critiquing you, everything you say, and I mean,
yeah, the one issue that I've had with at least academia, and concerning especially like experimental work, is you know there's a heavy there can be a heavy TE side of it as well. You know, like everything has to be peer reviewed. You have to have all of your sources together, and you're pretty much judged on necessarily the sources of information that you're getting it from, than really like what you are putting forward. Like, in some sense, there are ideas that have functioned virtually as a proof of sorts. So there's a difference between physicists and mathematicians. You know, there's kind of the old joke that mathematicians write pages and pages and pages for a single proof that it's like 1 + 1 = 2, while physicists are just happy when things cancel out on both sides. So we have to get to a simple expression or way of showing that equation, whereas mathematicians, they want to show like where everything came from, and I think this point also needs to be valued in academia. It's not just like making sure that you're putting like all of your sources together. Yeah.
And sometimes I don't remember where ideas came from. It's just like, well, it's a good idea. A good idea is a good idea, and it doesn't. It's like I don't always pay as much attention as to who said it. You know, it's like, okay, that sounds like a good idea. You know, I mean, I can always later go back and then always kind of check it more closely if I'm not sure. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was always my problem with school papers. I found it so tedious to have to cite all my sources and you know, and quoting everything, and you know, I mean that part of it was worse than the actual writing of the paper itself. I mean,
yeah, I mean, of course, we have to give credit where
well,
credit.
I mean, you have to give credit, yeah, but
yes, but the integrity of the idea doesn't necessarily have to rely on like who it came from. Like an idea is an idea. It's not.
That's the way I think of it, and ideas should be shared freely. I mean, I think that's a very alpha NT thing. And it's like some people are very much hoarding of their ideas. So, this is my idea, and don't copy it. And I need to make all this money on this idea, and
they're not like open to changing it or open to seeing
or
like
sharing, or they don't want it shared. And it could be a really good idea that would benefit people, but they're hoarding it for themselves.
Yeah,
I never really understood how, like, if you have to use sources, how you're supposed to like have an original idea like that. Like if it's your own idea but you have to find sources to support it, like what if the sources aren't out there yet?
Okay.
But I mean, I'm not like a scientist or mathematician though, so
That's very ignoring of all of us here. I agree greatly, but I also understand why it's important to have this sort of structure at the university, at the research in general, just like maybe something close to that would be like the newspaper, like, okay, we can have opinions and ideas, but it's going to be more strong and more substantial if there's backup, if there's other sources that makes it stronger. And yeah, what if there isn't previous sources? that's like an interesting hypothesis, but I think that's very, very difficult to happen because even if you have like a totally, I don't know, new innovative idea, it has to come from someplace, and you're going to use that sort of information to back up this new hypothesis. So I think it's annoying. I also hated it when I was at college, but I reckon like the importance, I guess.
So I think just a few more questions here. Oh, there's one. Maybe scroll up to find it. Just had it. Oh, this one is from the introverted thinker. When was the last time you felt something, or when was the last time you felt awesome about something, and what caused it?
As in
When
like
was the last time you felt something?
Yeah,
Okay.
last time you felt something.
No, as in like something
Slipped there.
like last time you felt awesome about something, is that as in terms of like pride or just anything feeling
I'm
really
guessing
pleasant?
just be anything.
Yeah, it's very open to interpretation. Like, I don't know, I felt awesome eating a cake. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
there's the soundtracks to a series that I've loved for a really long time, and I don't even know how many times I've watched it. I discovered a couple days ago that they're on Spotify now, and I have like really good like noise canceling headphones as of like a few months ago, and I'm wearing them. And so I was listening to them, and I was like, this is the best sound quality I've ever heard these in my entire life. Like to the point where I got like shudders down my spine from how good they sounded. It's like that doesn't happen to me very often from music.
You gonna tell us who they are?
Oh god, is it? It's Yuki Kajiura's Hack Sign soundtracks.
Okay, I don't know that.
Yeah. Post a link.
Since you're so excited. I think for me in the last few weeks was, we're in quarantine. It's a lot of little things at once, like noticing I'm fortunate enough to be able to work at home and still have like a good income. Feeling the sun on me in just a t-shirt outside. Like I live in Germany. I'm an American living in Germany, and it can be a little cold here. Maybe not as much as north of the United States, like where Laura is in Minnesota, but like it felt really good. Just feeling like spring is coming. There's this tree or a bush. I'm not sure, or I think it's a bush. And the first leaves that come out are yellow, like bright yellow, like you can't ignore it, almost neon. That's how like strong it is. And when I see that, then I know, okay, it's almost spring. And then it goes from yellow to green. And then I know, oh, we're in spring. But I sadly forgot what this bush or plant is called. And I've only seen them in this region of Europe. But seeing all that like together, like it gives me a sense of calming. And that's what makes me feel awesome, to know I don't have anything to worry about and that everything's going to be all right.
Yeah. So I think at least in terms of something that I've been like is a pastime or hobby is like developing my own sort of a storyline idea that sort of takes in like different sci-fi concepts and sort of puts them together. But I've been less proactive about actually sitting down and writing out the story than just going off on different tangents and considering those possibilities of how it would turn out. And then at the very end, although I might not even like decide on a final outcome, but what was enjoyable is the process of going through all of that. And but I would eventually like to write all of this down at some point, because I don't want to forget about any of it. But that experience is, I would say, is pretty awesome.
Yeah, the last time I felt awesome was a few days ago. I was driving middle north Washington State, and I managed to go to this area that was like very high in the middle of a valley, and it was about, I could see about, it was a bright, like spring was just coming out, so it was like 60, not foggy, and I was able to see like probably like 10 to 20 miles around me on mountain ranges to both sides, and I just felt so awesome and ecstatic that I was able to see that and be there.
Okay.
Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I think there was one question that I kept getting asked that I'm so sorry for not pulling this up earlier, but there's this question, what is our music taste? I mean, I can answer this right off the bat. Definitely, well, first, like, classical for me, but I would probably say that other genre would probably be like electronic. I'm not really into like the whole dubstep or EDM or anything like that. I like the sort of genre of that electronic music where it takes like different samples of music and sort of puts it together to where it sounds very like beautiful and picturesque, and it's almost painting a certain scene in that. And I think that the reason why I like some of that music genres is that it speaks to, I think it is more of an outlet of artistic expression than necessarily like, it feels more authentic too, like not like manufactured, because you know some pop songs that come out and reach the top of iTunes, you know, that, you know, even though that I can understand that there was probably some like artistic skill that went into it, a lot of what does go into it is, you know, like praising a lot of different false idols, like someone just living for money or living for drugs or living for sex or all of these other things. And when I feel that those things are a distraction from what is actually meaningful. So I think that that connection with music is that's my particular connection with music.
A lot of pop songs in particular are they're basically preying on the pattern recognition aspects of the brain, so that even when they're very simple and not even all that fun to listen to, they can get stuck in there. And also like the repetitive, a lot of them have the same chord progressions, the same notes, the same themes lyrically, even a lot of the same instrumentation and production techniques. And so that plays on the pattern recognition. And like that's why like pop artists in particular will get a lot of plays. It's the idea of like a mimetic hazard, or like something that like gets lodged up here whether you want it to be or not. And it's like that sort of familiarity creating like tolerability or acceptance, whether or not it's actually enjoyed. But it's like that on a mass scale, essentially. Anyway, that's not answering the question. That's just a response to the last thing.
I feel like I have the shittiest taste in music. I mean, because I enjoy a lot of the pop songs, but I hate it when people say what you like is trash, it's garbage, and it's like, for me, if it's catchy, if it makes me feel good, it's good. You know,
like that's the thing. That's the reason a lot of those can be enjoyable.
Yeah, you
They're
know,
specifically designed that way.
Yeah, my critique was not necessarily on the artists or the people, or necessarily like if that something makes you feel good, and that's completely fine. I was just speaking to like not only the psychology of it, but necessarily how those songs are manufactured to meet the demands of the market. So I really think that more authentically, you know, artists should pretty much have their own control over what they create. And I think it's kind of unfortunate how, like, in order for some artists to be able to survive, they have to meet the needs of contractors and other such people to be able to make a living.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. I like control over my own music is something I really I can't bring myself to really give that up. Like, if there was someone who could like maybe polish it a bit at the end, that might be fine. But still, even then, if they did it in a way I didn't like, I would like have to fix it myself anyway.
Yeah.
I would say my musical tastes are, I really like 60s, 70s, this blues psychedelic rock. I'm really into Jimi Hendrix and the bands that came after, like Red Hot Chili Peppers. I really love Joni Mitchell. People who are like triple threats. They can sing, they can write their own lyrics, and they play their instrument. Like that to me is like, you're
that's
definitely
great.
speaking to me because you're doing it for you. You want to express something, you want to do something, and even if it's not something like Joni Mitchell, like she can make music basically from a woman's perspective, but like sometimes she'll write something that really hits me, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't even know I had like armor around my heart. I didn't even know there was armor there for that feeling or anything. Like, and I'm just experiencing something, and it's really surprising to me. I also really love electric music. I love going to a techno club and just dancing all night. Like, you don't need any of the extra stuff. I can just go there sober and I'll have a good time just feeling the beat and feeling the vibe. So what else? I also used to go to a lot of metal clubs when I was younger, and I didn't know why. I was like, I liked how aggressive and how crazy it was. I don't know what it was, but now I have the one single or two words that can define it, and that's this FE vibe, where we're all there to like just go headbang and mosh pit and just go crazy. And it was that vibe there.
Atmosphere behind it. Do you kind of miss that now with the coronavirus, that you can't go out like that and do that, or
I miss the
maybe you find a
speaker.
way to simulate it at home.
I have lighting effects. I have okay speakers, but I don't have speakers that can replicate what a disco can. But yeah, if I need to dance like that, I could if I wanted to, but no, not really. I'm kind of enjoying. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I kind of.
There was a concert I was going to go to last month for like a band I've been into since 2005, when like their second album ever was released, and I mean, obviously the whole tour was rescheduled.
I think this one's a good one. If everyone's fine to move on to the.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Chris says, favorite movie.
Oh gosh.
This one's kind of tough for me too.
Yeah, I'm not particularly good at favorites. Too many options. Personally,
I know I suggested the time.
Then just one you really liked or had a lot of impact on you.
Yeah, just whatever comes to mind that was you really liked.
My favorite movie used to be Edward Scissorhands, but then I watched it so many times that it wasn't anymore, and now it's only Lovers Left Alive.
I like that movie. Yeah, Lovers. That's with the two vampires.
Yeah.
A guy plays guitar, another one reads books.
Yeah. Adam and Eve. Oh gosh, I like that movie enough that I actually got the Black Phoenix Alchemy Lab Atom perfume.
My girlfriend,
it smells really nice though.
Yeah. My girlfriend at the time, this was a few years ago, was EII, and she's studying like English literature and so obsessed with reading books and stuff. And she had just her apartment is just pretty much books, and then my apartment had like guitars in it. So when we saw that movie the first time, we were like, "Whoa, what's going on here?"
Yeah, I'm the person who is both.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a movie. I've never really been a movie person.
Yeah.
I'm so focused on does the movie make sense, and when something doesn't make sense, then I'm like, this movie sucks. Movie. But that's not true. I'm not looking at movies right. I'm just so being judgmental. I'm the worst person to watch movies or series with. I'm just judgmental and complaining the whole time.
That's me with horror movies. I just can't. I can't get into them because they're just so unrealistic. I just laugh, honestly.
That's why they're fun.
Yeah,
I'm so bad at following movies sometimes. It's like you're in one scene and then all of a sudden they jump to the next scene and I'm like, okay, how does this scene relate to the scene before it? You know, it's like, trying to, I don't know. And they say like if you're an intuitive type, you should be very good at predicting movies and this is going to happen. And I'm terrible at predictions. I mean, like I mean, maybe it's because I don't watch a whole lot of movies, but
yeah, sometimes
I don't know or maybe it's just because I'm more NE and it's sort of like, well, this could happen, that could happen. I'm not narrowing it down to one possibility. This is what's going to happen. I know that this person's going to die or whatever. It's like.
Sometimes it's the result of terrible writing, and it's really impossible to make a prediction.
I feel like I know where all movies are going, and I think that's what bores me. That's why I'd rather have a movie that isn't so good, but I don't know what's going to happen next, and that'll keep me on the edge of my seat. Like, okay, where's this going?
Yeah,
like, oh, whoa.
I don't know.
Like, I'm such a sucker for plot twists.
I think that's why I don't like a lot of the like really big name movies because they follow formulas.
Oh, yeah.
It's like you can like Detective Pikachu. I knew everything that was going to happen in the entire movie in like the first 2 minutes, and I was like,
yeah, same. I knew. I was like, there's no way anyone dies.
no, like the instant Mewtwo showed up, I knew the entire plot.
Yeah, I like animations a lot. So some of my favorite movies are animations. I like Ghibli Studio, Hayao Miyazaki. You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of SI&E there. So it's very relaxing to watch because like there isn't this formula that we see in Hollywood of things happening too fast. Like things just really flows, you know? So it's really pleasant to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like it when everything kind of flows and all the parts just make sense as you're watching it. You don't have to suspend belief, and I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, like I'll watch fantasy movies, things that I know they're not real in real life, but in the context, it totally makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like all the parts fit together as you're watching it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be realistic necessarily, but it has to make sense in the context given.
Yeah. This just reminds me, I've been so busy with university work that I just haven't had time to watch movies and the like. So I need to sort of get back into doing that. Just to rediscover what my tastes are, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a particular favorite movie right now, but when I was younger, it seems so innocent, but I really liked actually really liked Up. I just liked the entire idea. Yeah, it was pretty predictable, but I just liked the theme, the life that was lived, and I think there's a lot of I resonated a lot with like the fear of like living beyond someone that you love that died, and that really resonated with me as a kid. And I like the calm lifestyle of being able to live somewhere with not many people and just be able to enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Okay. What else? This one was being asked earlier. I admit I don't really quite have an answer to it because I don't know if I understand the question, but I'm pulling it up because it was asked again and again. So I don't know.
Are any of us at liberty to answer this?
We are not all knowing. I'm sorry.
Well, it depends. I guess like it depends on how much you would consider anything humans do as like an expression of God or like the creative force behind the universe or anything like that. It's just like being something like flowing through humans into like a form others can experience.
Well, maybe if string theory is real, and then music will be the TI expression of God. If God is everything and strings are vibrating and creating this reality, then
well, there's a lot of mathematical patterns. There's a lot of mathematical patterns in music, and there's beauty from the patterns. So,
yeah.
Yes.
My only problem with this is that we would not be able to share this with deaf people. So there's just one consideration there. So
yeah. Okay.
But anyway, I think.
Well, if you can convert it to vibration somehow, because they can feel the vibrations.
Well, music is essentially vibrations, just at different speeds.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because I've read about deaf people, they do listen to music because they like the vibrations that it causes. You know, if you turn it on loud enough and you got enough bass, you have vibrations.
And actually, dogs tend to like a lot of the same music as humans, and cats tend to not. But it has to do with like their physiological processes, like rates of breathing and typical heart rates. Because dogs are similar enough to humans that they can enjoy the same music, but cats is so different that you have to write special music that resonates with the physiological processes of cats for cats to enjoy it. But then they do, and so there's actually a way in which music and like the rhythms and vibratory frequencies that create pitches and all that are actually in sync with like humans, like heartbeat rates and rates of breathing and all that.
Yeah, I think it fundamentally has to do, like in terms of music and art and different art forms, this can all fall under the category of aesthetics, in which these are all means of communicating a higher truth. So art would, I mean, of course, be the visual representation of truth, and while with music, it's a bit more can be a bit abstract. Like it's not just a visual picture of what something is, like an actual scene or image, but sort of a feeling. So I remember this being a very specific commonality between, and it's influenced some of my writing and writing about like different civilizations and in terms of socionics. And something that I've noticed about the more beta societies and how they are able to achieve this sense of unity is through the shared message can easily be spread through some lyrical ballad or music, such as like a national anthem.
Yeah.
If you even think about the cultural idea of that, sort of everyone being able to come together and show their respect for the nation, or at least the idea of the nation. And in other places, you can see a bit more of extreme version of this, you know, in terms of the nationalist fervor. We're all sort of united in that. So I think it doesn't just speak to a higher truth, but it can also be used as like a psychological or sociological means to an end.
If I may, I expand on that a little bit. I think so. Music, I think, in experience, is a very spiritual thing for a lot of people, and we've seen that throughout history of civilization. And I've talked to a lot. I'm not particularly religious, but I've talked to a lot of people who are, and just to understand. And it's music and the feeling of connection to God is very important. I think music, if you think about music being like emotional connection and bond with God, you could say it is an expression of God. And as well, if we are theoretically extension or creation of God, then if we create music, then by deduction, music would be expression of God. And you could also take that route, but I think in like the way of like the spiritual connection that you have, the answer to this question could be yes. Like in a not in a literal sense, but in like a feeling sense. And I think music, the feeling associated with musical connection has a lot in common with the connection that you have with like theoretical higher entities. I think there's definitely a strong parallel there. So yeah.
Okay. Still just looking for another one.
Also, I'm sorry that I'm not quite paying attention so much. There's a lot of background noise from someone, and every time it goes by, I lose track of the conversation.
Oh, it's not on my end, is it?
I can't tell. It's not like anything lights up like on Discord.
It could be here.
Do you have headphones, Gabby?
I can find some. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's like voices and cars going by and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'd only said your name, Gabby, because I don't see your headphones, and I see everyone else having headphones, and I know there can be some echoing without headphones. That's
it's
all.
Not an echo.
Not an echo, or hearing the background, hearing what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm.
Just looking for third question.
This talk is going pretty much how I expected. We all would take turns and respect what the other one's saying and be like, okay.
That's how it should be. If only everybody else took turns like us, our society would be better.
It's okay to interrupt, but that's the thing about having stronger FE or SE. You have the finesse to know when is the right moment. When is the...
Well, it's funny because when I was a kid, you know, I used to be the interrupter. I'd be terrible at interrupting, and my parents always said, "Don't interrupt, don't interrupt." And then it's like, if I don't interrupt, how am I going to ever get a word in edgewise? And I don't know. And then you see other people around you, they're interrupting and they're getting away with it.
And then when it's actually something important, like
there must be how they're doing it or how they're approaching it. It's like a double standard, you know. It's like
like everyone else talking at once, and you have something important to say, and like some people will be like, "Wow, what you think isn't so important,"
right?
Like when you're like, the one who's they're not letting talk.
Yeah, it's like if I interrupt, people complain, but then other people interrupt. And people don't say a word about it, you know?
I think that's a little something you shouldn't take too personally. Something that only life experience and I guess working now and where you have to sometimes be really direct and interrupt people like, no, this meeting isn't going anywhere. I have to now jump in, say it. And because it's work and not personal, like it's so much easier. And I'm able to take that a little more into real life. And it's okay to interrupt. It's okay it's okay actually to say or do anything. There are no consequences.
Yeah, Clayton, that's how I think about it. It's like in work, I think I'm a lot more inclined to interrupt. And because I think I have I have particular things in mind I think are really important, and if people aren't paying attention to them, well, we're wasting time. I think that's actually kind of interesting because I actually do care about like wasting time when work mode is on. Like that's actually something I do care quite a lot about.
Because when I'm at work, it's like I just want to do my job. I'm not there to chit chat but I feel like if I actually chit chatted with my colleagues more and not be so task focused, I feel like in a way I would be more successful because there would be more that human element to it, and I don't know, I'd be more likely to get promoted. I'd be more likely to get better jobs. It's
and never mind, I lost what I was gonna say.
Okay, let's see. I actually have a couple of questions since I don't see too many questions, but okay, I think we can come back to so what is it? Have if are you interested in any sort of philosophy, and if so, what particularly do you follow or like adhere to in your own life, just out of curiosity?
I don't really follow.
Well, I particularly don't follow. I don't follow a particular philosophy, but I have a natural philosophical inclination as far as like how I think, of course, but like I think about like, you know, these are how life should be lived, but I don't have a particular philosophy that I follow. I think like I'll read philosophy and I'll usually say like, oh, this is good for doing this, and I think philosophies have certain applications for people, and typically aren't all in common. I mean, if we go look at the Greeks, like each of them have like a different lifestyle, as you know, and each of them, at least as claim, could feel happy with their own lifestyle, and I really think it's a lot more situational than probably in particular philosophy. I do take little bits and pieces. For example, like from Stoicism, I think it's important to like, you know, understand and accept the consequences of something, and learn, and by doing that, you learn to appreciate the now, and I think that is an important coping skill to learn. And yeah, it's, or like, for example, if we want to go to like Buddhism, there's a lot of valuable lessons in each of the rules, and I definitely so I like to take bits and pieces from everywhere personally.
Yeah, I don't really follow any one particular philosopher per se, but I have my own principles that I live by, like kind of like treat others the way you want to be treated, and like every human, like I see all humans' lives as being equally valuable, and just the basics of human dignity, and trying to treat everybody fairly. And also I think you only live once, you know, because I'm not religious. I don't believe in an afterlife. So I feel like, you know, this is the one life you have, and to live it the best you can. This is the one chance you get. And and you know, not to waste time on trivial stuff, you know.
I see. I think maybe at least my framing of the question perhaps maybe did do it as much service or justice to it. Like it.
Sorry if I didn't really answer it right.
No. You answered it wonderfully, both of you. I mean, what I mean is that what I was saying that the individual ideas that you follow, it doesn't have to be a part of any particular doctrine or set. Technically speaking, about the ideas themselves, but you, through that misinterpretation of the question, actually interpreted what I wanted to say. So,
well, perfect.
It worked out well for me.
So it was an error in my favor.
Yes. Well.
Nice.
So, very good. Let's see. Oh, I think actually we have another question here. Oh, here's a good one. How do we all define or interpret FI? Do you think it's useful, and if so, how?
Mm-hmm. It's not FI, it's R. Jack's gonna get mad at you if you call it FI. You gotta.
Well, I mean, we'll see what happens. We'll see if he gets mad or not. I'm willing to take that risk. Okay, so in terms of FI, I think that it also kind of goes into my theory behind, well, not my theory, but also Jack has said this before, that what does make something a strong function is to have the other side of that function supported, like FI supporting FE. So I think that there have been like these radical ideas to try to enforce a sort of collective unity between people, sort of like, you know, the free love movement and people being able, you know, ideas on like abolishing marriage and this other stuff. But I think that we need to have some sort of structural element by which we can relate to each other, you know, and also to place just that idea of togetherness. A community not only needs that sort of sense of unity, but also the connections between the individuals there, even if it is subdued, it's still like there. And I think that there are certain, at least in how I personally relate to FI, is being able to convey a sort of impersonality towards like particular topics and areas of discussion, like not trying to have like personal favorites and discussion, and trying to keep it fair and just. Like, I mean, I can understand that, you know, I have my own personal preferences, but I'm not going to make a point about it if it's something that it's difficult, very difficult to make an objective point about something which is a subjective preference, and that doesn't really translate well. So I absolutely think it is necessary. I guess I would have to think of a particular example, but I mean, I think you get the idea.
I'm still learning socionics, so I don't know how nuanced my answer to this is going to be. But yeah, a few months ago I was really sick and I was on cough medicine for a few days. And at some point in there, I came to the realization that FI is just TI but with people.
Well, there is both the structure there.
Yeah.
Like totally different focus, but the same sort of thing-ish.
Well, yeah.
Well, they're both rational functions. They're both static.
Yes, there is absolutely.
They're going to have some things in common.
Yeah, I like to think of it is that it has the same fundamental property in a sense, but the content is different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's this idea.
I think my TI kind of involves a lot of people, stuff. Like when I talk, like my TI principles can involve people. Like,
well, I don't mean like in a principles way. I mean in the sense of like in the sense of like TI being like, oh gosh, like a network, but like of ideas and concepts.
Yeah.
Or like the way a whole bunch of things connect like that in a specific structure. And so it's like if you take the ideas and concepts and even the ideas or concepts about people or principles or anything like that, you replace it with just like people and the way that they're interrelated. Like something like that.
I think it as I like going with Galenko uses metaphor, not to say that like Galenko is pretty controversial, but he describes it as he uses a metaphor for FI as a compass. And I think in a way that they kind of works with that structure, but with like I guess like in some ways emotion or people. And you like go around the map and you can see where it's oriented depending on where you are, what you contact with. And it's not you can't really objectively measure it, but it's there and it changes direction. And yeah, it's for each person it's different, and the north and south are different. And yeah, I think it's very useful to like build things with people, and like also like I think it gives some level of joy to people to be able to like build relationships with others, and also notice like how to. I think FI in some sense does care about, pay attention to like boundaries, like like not disrespecting someone by acting in a particular way. And I think that TI also covers that to an extent, but it's not on a rule objectivity basis. So I think it's valuable for that, is like to have that gauge that isn't necessarily like objective and clear set.
A quick difference I just thought of between TI and FI is I have two close friends, an EII and an ESI, and sometimes they'll ask me, or my ESI friend will ask me a lot, which one is better? Which car is better? And I'm like looking at him like, which car is better? What are you talking about? Like, do you mean faster? Do you mean what could transport the most people? Like, I had to make it like concrete, like to show the different ways you can measure it. And well, the faster car is gonna win a race, and then it's better for that situation. But he literally meant, and when I, took time to think about what he was talking about, which one do I just like better? It had nothing to do what is actually better. So this whole like and dislike, I can see that a lot from FI people. Okay, I like this person, don't like this person. I like these SI things. Like my EII friend, she has a whole room full of books and like plants and just all these things she likes. And if you really asked her, why do you like this? She doesn't have anything deeper to say. She likes it because she just likes it. And for me, I don't know what I really like, but I like this, and I can give my reasons why.
I can almost always attach reasons for it. Yeah.
So, like, was he asking you to tell him what he liked more?
I think he wanted to know what I liked.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, I don't care what car is. I don't have a preference for a car. It would always be a reason to it. Okay, this car was in my price range. This car, I could fit in. I'm 6'2", 1m88. So there are some smaller cars I don't fit in that well. I'm not the tallest, but like, there's things I need to take into consideration. And everything's a cost-benefit analysis. Everything is there's always a reason why I'm doing this, or I like this more. But there's never it has to be food. It has to be something non-sequential. I just like this more. I even have reasons for why I like food. I'd rather buy. We made once at home, like homemade gnocchi, and that took over an hour, and that was fun. But I'd rather have the lower quality that I can cook in 3 minutes and be done because it's faster.
Do you come up with the reasons why you like things before you like them then?
I could realize more reasons later, but usually it's before, I think.
Yeah, for me, like when I choose a car, it's
I'm like, okay, I picked this laptop. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, like I relate to that car example. Like it's cost benefit analysis. It's what's most comfortable. Like I think my likes has a lot more to do with like what's more aesthetically pleasing or comfortable to me. To be honest, like I really like my car that I chose because the steering is really nice and the acceleration is very smooth. And you know those are all things that I care a lot about.
Yeah, and but yeah. Well, it's like when I buy a car, like I will pay attention to some aesthetic factors, like I'll notice like I like the color or the look, but for me the driving factor is still like, is it within my price range? Am I getting good gas mileage?
Yeah.
Is it gonna hold up well, and I'm not gonna constantly have to repair it? It's still more the functionalities.
Well, yeah, I think in some ways like the experience of using it is the functionality.
And that's true too, because if you're not comfortable in your seat, I mean, that is a pretty significant factor.
But no, like for sure, I price is more important than everything, because that's what I mean. That's you have to think about the long-term consequences of buying the car.
What about something that's not as big a decision as a car? Like if you get a house plant.
Well, then I think with a house plant, it would be more aesthetic. I think. I mean, because, well, for one thing, they're a lot cheaper, and so it's like not wasting that much. I mean, I would still look at like cost benefit factors, like how much maintenance is involved and how long is this plant going to live, and if it's too much to maintain, I may not want to bother with it. If it's going to die on me really quick, I may not want to bother with it. I mean,
exactly.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go pretty soon, but
same here. Yeah.
Like
really nice talking to y'all.
2 hours and 30 minutes about. So
I've got a video chat lined up pretty soon with my family. So.
Oh yeah, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
To go back to the last point? Sorry, I guess with music, an FI perspective, I'm not really thinking of. I don't know how to TI music in a way where I'm like, oh, this one's better. No, like. That's all okay. That would all be my whatever internally is going inside with me. There we go. To just have an exception.
Yeah, I don't have strong preferences of music personally. Like to answer that question early, like I just don't like things that are really loud and disturbing. Like I'm pretty flexible. Usually I stick with like classical or something more chill. But I also am down for like EDM and techno as well. So it's
same here.
I like a whole bunch of different genres, and it really depends on like, I guess, the mood I'm in and emotional resonance and stuff like that.
Yeah. All right. How about like I might have to go soon too as well. But I think, how does one more question sound? Sound
Super, super
Yeah.
duper.
All right, cool. All right. This one's a big one. How do you reconcile wanting to connect with society while simultaneously maintaining your mental autonomy?
I really like that question, by the way.
Yeah, that is the question. I'm gonna have to think about this one for a second because
I can go ahead and start if that's all right. But for me, I'm also a type 9, so autonomy is very important. I have to have that. I have to be me. I have to do what I want. I may not know what I want, but I'm damn sure not going to have someone over me micromanaging me or telling me I have to stop believing in things or doing what I want because of society. I know that's like an extreme example and probably won't happen, but I kind of feel like it's me before society. And what I really hope is all the things I enjoy and do and believe will have a really big benefit to society in some way. I still want to be a part of society, but I want to just at any point say, okay, that was fun. Time for me to do what I want. Time to be me.
Yep.
Time to
Yep.
close the doors and dance, whatever, naked. It doesn't matter, but it's going to be me. It's going to be me doing what I want. It's not going to be just everyone. Because I feel like I lose myself when I'm with too many people for too long, or I'm being pulled in every direction, and then I don't know. I'm just sitting there like, what am I doing? What am I feeling right now? And I just don't know. There's too much like sensory experience or something.
yeah. I think in one way, in terms of trying to connect with society, I think this touches on a very deeper problem in my view, that in terms of people not having a connection with other people, and in terms of like if they're looking for a job, they have to like make sure the resume is like squeaky clean and go into basically their connection to people is sort of like virtually the same thing as like trying to get a bullseye while throwing a dart in like a pitch black room. Like it's something that you just sort of, in the way that the system is set up, it's like you have to almost jump into it in an almost blind, with almost blind faith. So I absolutely think that individual autonomy can in fact be interrelated with society, where like no one person has like authority over someone else, or gets to like dictate what they have to do, and like decisions can be made like democratically, like not no one person or people don't have to like go ahead and force that decision onto another person just because they made it, or because they have that special like privilege and hierarchy. Like from my point of view, like in terms of hierarchies in society, we should they should be just and based on like one's own merit. Like, and they should be in that position because they have essentially earned it and have put forth the work in doing so, not because they got that position through their family or because they had lots of money or
right, or they just charm their way into it, and
exactly.
yeah.
So
it's still impressive charming people, but yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of like not like I'm being overlooked, like in the workplace, because I'd like to be able to move up to to a better position that offers more challenges and opportunities, and I've tried, and I'm not getting that, and I know that I'm a very hard worker, and that I will and I want to learn, and I want to grow. And I don't know, maybe it's that people side of it that's coming up, or I lack those contacts, like I don't know the right people or something. I mean, I think there's something that's holding me back, but they're not telling me what exactly it is, because if I don't get the job, they're not telling me the real reason why. They just say somebody was a better fit, somebody was better qualified, and they're not making it specific enough, and so I don't feel like I have control over the situation.
I'm not really sure I even understand the question. Because I don't understand how I would lose mental autonomy. I'm not entirely sure what wanting to connect with society is, because society is a concept basically. I understand wanting to connect with people, especially if I like them and stuff like that, but I don't see how those would even need to be reconciled, because if other people shouldn't, other people can't override what I think or what I feel anyway, so there's nothing to reconcile.
You go.
No, so I thought something similar to Anne, because this question is very open to interpretation. So I was thinking first, what exactly would be mental autonomy, and why we would need to reconcile it with society? I don't think there is this reconciliation at first, not necessarily, at least. And also, depending on what we consider mental autonomy, I don't think that can be something that even exists. Because what we think, how we place ourselves, what we value, what are our principles, everything that we consider to be something we have control upon, is actually influenced all the time by many factors in the context that we live. So I don't think we have complete autonomy, mental autonomy in first place. But if we can turn this concept something more flexible and just think oh, okay, so mental autonomy would be having my ideas, values, principles, how my mind is shaped, conserved to a certain point. Then, once again, I don't think that's something that needs to be reconciled, because it's something that it's part of how it's built anyway. I don't know if I made my point clear, but yeah.
For me, I guess it's not really about mental autonomy, but more just general physical independence. I do share a strong need to connect with others in society. Yeah, maybe you could say it from more of an Enneagram perspective, because I'm social first, that I care a lot about that. And I think that doing that might make me seem a little bit more gregarious than the average LII. Maybe that's why a lot of people in chat are he's IE or ILE. And it's I think that how I solve that reconcile is compartmentalization. But basically I have times where I go on out and I connect with people, and and out there doing things, and then I have times where I just have me time. It's just I'm in my room listening to music, or just playing a relaxing video game, and it's just I schedule both of the things out and I balance it. And both are very important needs to me, and it's not I think reconciling implies there's maybe some type of collective mindset, and I do definitely see that in myself. I do pay attention what people as a group generally think, and it's I just think it's like from seeing it from observer point of view and critiquing it. I think it's as simple as that, is maintain your independence. Like just like, you know, you have your own thoughts, and you know, like for me, I think I have to separate, you know, and I think separation is pretty important. But it's just something you have to be consciously aware of. I don't think it's much more complicated than that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think for myself, it's this constant tension. I feel like I want to be able to be myself and be totally myself, but then also have that contact with others and be accepted by them. And so I always feel like, well, to connect with others, I kind of have to hold parts of myself back, because if I was totally myself all the time, it may not be socially acceptable. They might, you know, reject me for it, or
Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you really be content, like feeling like the connection with others is strong enough if you're holding yourself back, though? Because then they're not actually interacting with you, are they?
Like, what do you mean?
If you're not showing who you are to others, then like it's not a real connection then, if they don't actually know you exactly.
That's true. Yeah. So I guess I need to be able to take more risks and kind of show more who I really am, and then accept that, you know, not everybody's gonna approve of that, and yeah, some people will reject me, and I don't know. I feel like it's all or nothing. I want somebody that can accept all of me, you know, all the parts of me, down to the smallest quirk, and I wouldn't have to hide anything. I could be totally open whenever I wanted to, and maybe that's kind of unrealistic, because a person may still like you as a person, but that maybe they don't accept all the parts of you. I don't know. It's like, how are you totally yourself in the presence of other people? It's kind of like, you know, if there was some way where I can kind of have both and not always have to choose one or the other. Yeah. Anyway, I really do got to get going, but
Okay.
if you had any quick feedback on that before I leave, I'd like to hear.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree with that. I think I was just thinking about this one idea in terms of like, it's a kind of a strange psychological idea. Like what came to mind initially was like, you know, like reality TV shows, and what how people are actually expressing themselves, and whether or not this is like authentic or if it's a dramatization. And I kind of think that it's like even when the camera isn't on like us, we are still playing ourselves as if we are a character in private life, in some sense. And I think that idea is also kind of interesting, you know, in terms of trying to be able to communicate an impression to someone else. How can we adequately communicate that impression if we're not even so sure, like who like all parts of us, like what we're made up of, like who we actually are, you know? So yeah, that's at least the idea that initially came to mind with. I totally agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I am going to go now. So, thank you so much for having me on this chat. Yep. See you around.
See you, Laura.
WSS.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I actually I have to get going too. Yeah, I've really enjoyed this chat. Yeah, I hope we can have something like this again, because it was really fun. Anyway, Yeah. I'm off. Yeah. Thank you guys for your time, and yeah, thanks everyone for watching too.
Bye.
Later. Nice meeting you.
Yeah. I think
Hmm.
I should probably actually need to go soon as well. So I think this is appropriate to
I think so too.
It's been almost 3 hours anyway.
almost. Thank you everyone for coming. It was a wonderful discussion and meeting all of you. And I hope we can, do something like this sometime in the future. Yeah.
Definitely. I had a lot of fun too in meeting you guys, and I'm surprised how it went pretty much how I expected, just politely, all of us talking to each other, and yeah, no weird long pauses. It just flowed. It just flowed one thing after the next.
Yeah, it went amazingly. Thank you so much for all this. Okay.
Oh, thanks, and sorry for not talking too much. I think
No, it's absolutely fine.
I'm a bit shy, and yeah, but it was nice. So thanks.
All right. So, and to everyone, everyone watching, have a wonderful rest of your day. All right.
Bye.
Later.